In the Spirit Value Hall, the once bustling hall seemed to fall into a brief silence. All the eyes, somewhat dazed, were fixated on the torrent of thunder beads, over 10,000 of them. They had never seen such a vast quantity before. In the thunder domain, refining thunder beads was no easy task. Many people could only gather around 10 or so in a day's work, and that was only if they sacrificed their personal cultivation time. To refine over 10,000 beads would take an incredibly long time, even if one worked non-stop. Moreover, these 13,000 thunder beads were worth a staggering 2,600,000 spirit value. That was a substantial amount, enough to buy high-quality spiritual artifacts or even some quasi-divine level divine arts in the Spirit Value Hall. The gazes of those watching the torrent of thunder beads sparkled with envy. Fortunately, they were in the Northern Azure Spiritual Academy. Had they been in the North Tsang continent, Mu Chen's display of wealth would have undoubtedly brought him much trouble. Of course, he was aware of this, which was why he only chose to display the beads here. The beautiful young girl behind the counter snapped out of her stupor and looked at Mu Chen in shock. She clearly didn't understand how he managed to acquire so many thunder beads. Fortunately, she was smart enough not to ask any further questions. She took out a mustard seed bracelet, and in a flash of light, she absorbed the entire torrent of thunder beads into it. Indeed, there are 13,000, she said, counting briefly. She nodded slightly, then smiled sweetly and said, "This student, I do not have the authority to trade for spirit values of over 200,000. I will go ask the executive minter." Mu Chen nodded, and the girl turned and left. She returned shortly, this time accompanied by a middle-aged man, likely the executive minter. The executive minter also looked at Mu Chen in surprise. Even he had never seen a student who could present over 10,000 thunder beads. "Give me your spirit value token," he said, though his surprise was tempered. He smiled faintly. Mu Chen smiled back and handed over his spirit value token. The executive minter took it, also producing a spirit value token from his sleeve. A ray of rainbow light shot out, entering Mu Chen's token before handing it back. Mu Chen glanced at his token and saw that it now contained 7,100,000 spirit values. He couldn't help but sigh in relief. After all this effort, he had finally gathered enough. "Thank you," he said, suppressing his impatience. He thanked the executive minter, but did not immediately take the token. Instead, he smiled and said, "Could I trouble you again, minter? I'd like to purchase something." "What?" The executive minter smiled. "The essence blood of the North Abyss Dragon Kuan," Mu Chen said with a smile. The executive minter's hand holding the token shook slightly, his eyes wide in disbelief. The essence blood of the North Abyss Dragon Kuan? Worth 7 million spirit value? That was one of the most expensive items in the Spirit Value Hall. In all the years he had been here, no student had ever purchased it. "Follow me." The executive minter waved, gesturing for Mu Chen to follow. The other students hadn't quite caught what Mu Chen wanted to buy, but upon seeing the executive minter's expression, they guessed it was no ordinary item, and their curiosity piqued. Mu Chen didn't pay them any mind. He followed the executive minter into a small private room. The minter went into the inner chamber and returned after a while. With a flick of his sleeve, a crystal ball the size of a human head appeared in his hand. Inside the crystal ball, a mass of golden liquid squirmed as though it had a life of its own, emitting an extremely mystical aura. Even with the crystal ball's barrier, Mu Chen could still feel the terrifying power contained in the golden blood. It was the power of a divine beast. A divine beast, on par with a supreme existence. "This is the essence blood of the North Abyss Dragon Kuan, from Lord Biming," the executive minter said, his voice filled with awe as he gazed at the golden liquid. Mu Chen nodded. "Lord Biming must refer to the North Abyss Dragon Kuan. This essence blood is priced at 7 million spirit value. I have already deducted it from your spirit value token," the executive minter said, returning the token to Mu Chen. The 7 million spirit values had been reduced to only 100,000, making Mu Chen sigh. "From now on, the North Abyss Dragon Kuan essence blood belongs to you," the executive minter said with a smile. Though he was curious about why Mu Chen had purchased it, it was not his place to ask about personal matters. "Thank you, minter." Chen accepted the spirit value token, then stored the North Abyss Dragon Kuan essence blood into his mustard seed bracelet. Bowing to the Minter, he turned and took his leave. The executive Minter watched Chen's departing figure, pondering for a moment before also leaving. The matter of the North Abyss Dragon Kuan essence blood was no small affair. He needed to report it to the higher-ups of the academy. Leaving the spirit value hall, Chen looked at the bustling crowd before leaping into the air. In his heart, he asked, "Now that you have the North Abyss Dragon Kuan essence blood, can you successfully evolve? If only it were that easy." "I still have to undergo the Thunder Tribulation," Nether replied. "The Black Divine Thunder Tribulation?" Chen's eyelids twitched involuntarily. When he first met Nether, she had been enduring this very tribulation, only to fail. He knew all too well how terrifying it was. Spirit Ascension transformation is a crucial step in our spirit beast cultivation path. It's never easy. I've already failed twice. But this time, with the power of the North Abyss Dragon Kuan essence blood, I have a high chance of success, Nether said solemnly. Chen nodded in silence. Now that he and Nether shared a bloodline bond, their fates were intertwined. Her success was his success, and her failure would bring him immense consequences. Naturally, he hoped she would overcome the Black Divine Thunder Tribulation. Adjust your state over the next 2 days. You can draw on my spiritual energy as needed. Then, we'll find a place to undergo the tribulation, Chen said. Within his chi-si, Nether nodded, a trace of warmth flickering in her eyes. She could feel Chen's genuine concern. Chen said no more. With a flicker of his figure, he returned to the freshman district. His arrival once again stirred excitement among the members of Luo God Society. News of him breaking into the 8th layer of the Thunder Domain had already spread throughout Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy, leaving many students in awe. This freshman seemed to perform astonishing feats every so often. After chatting and laughing with the others for a while, Chen returned to his small pavilion. However, he did not see Luo Li. She was likely off training, which made him chuckle wryly. That girl was as relentless as ever when it came to cultivation. But then, recalling the heavy burden she bore upon her delicate shoulders, Chen's heart grew somber. He could sense that Luo Li might not be able to stay by his side for much longer. As the future queen of the Luo God clan, she had too much to prepare for. And his current strength was still too weak. He had no ability to help her at all. Standing on the pavilion, Chen gazed at the vast starry sky and let out a soft breath. He had a long road ahead, but at least he still had time. For the next 2 days, Chen stayed in his pavilion, quietly cultivating in preparation for Nether's tribulation. Although crossing tribulations was something one had to face alone, he wanted to provide her with as much support as possible. Nether remained silent during these 2 days, focusing entirely on gathering strength for her third attempt at the formidable Thunder Tribulation. Time flew by. 2 days later, Chen soared out of the freshman district, heading beyond Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy. In the vast outer region, mountain ranges stretched endlessly. This place was far from the academy, an ideal location for the tribulation, as there would be no interruptions. Chen traveled for nearly an hour before slowing down. Once he had put enough distance between himself and the academy, he descended onto a mountain peak. Though the surrounding mountains housed some spirit beasts, none possessed overly powerful spiritual energy, making it a suitable place for the tribulation. As Chen landed, a surge of black flames erupted from his shoulder. The small black sparrow that was Nether emerged, its sharp gaze fixed upon the sky, unyielding and full of pride. Chen clenched his fist, and a crystal orb containing the North Abyss Dragon Kuan essence blood appeared. Golden liquid flowed within, radiating a terrifying power. "Shall we begin?" The Nether sparrow nodded slightly, and immediately, it released black flame from its mouth, enveloping the crystal ball before swallowing it whole. Whoosh! It soared into the sky, and as it did, the sky was consumed by the black flames, sweeping across the land. A clear and loud cry rang out, echoing through the heavens and earth. Amidst the rising flames, the Nether sparrow's small form began to expand rapidly. In just a few breaths, a pair of black flame wings, nearly as vast as mountains, unfurled, blotting out the sky and sun. Chen looked up. This was the second time he had witnessed the 9 Nether Sparrow revealing its true form. With the help of the North Abyss Dragon Kuin's essence blood, its previous injuries had fully healed, and it was now even stronger than before. Chirp! The 9 Nether Sparrow let out a sharp cry, and a terrifying wave of spiritual energy surged forth, its immense pressure spreading across the land. Boom! As the 9 Nether Sparrow recklessly released its power, a terrifying fluctuation began to form high in the sky. Above, dark, destructive thunderclouds gathered, charged with the power of annihilation. Chen's gaze grew serious. The black divine thunder tribulation had finally arrived. Boom! The heavens and earth rumbled. The once bright sky suddenly darkened, and even the spiritual energy between the heavens and earth seemed to sense the terrifying aura, scattering and fleeing from the area. Woo-woo! Across the vast mountains, countless spirit beasts trembled in fear, letting out mournful cries. The black divine thunder tribulation was an absolute nightmare for all spirit beasts. They longed for the thunder tribulation that could transform them during their long cultivation journey, but they also feared it with all their might. Chen stood on a mountain peak, his gaze fixed on the sky. There, the dark thunderclouds continued to form, flickering with black lightning. The power of the thunder was violently overwhelming. Even the Thunder River on the 8th layer of the Thunder Domain paled in comparison. This was true, annihilating force from the heavens. It was a power born from the very heavens and earth. Beneath the terrifying black divine thundercloud, the 9 Nether Sparrow's massive form spread its wings that covered the mountains. Its body burned with raging black flames, and the temperature in the air rose with the heat emanating from those flames. Every time the 9 Nether Sparrow flapped its wings, it stirred a scorching hurricane, sweeping across the land. Chirp! The 9 Nether Sparrow let out a piercing cry, its eyes burning with black flame as it defiantly stared at the ever-forming black divine thundercloud. It had been defeated by it twice before. If not for the Phoenix bloodline, it would have long since been destroyed by the Thunder Tribulation. But despite failing repeatedly, it never considered surrendering. It was the proud 9 Nether Sparrow, born with the blood of the undying bird, and it was determined to become the most powerful divine beast in the world. Therefore, it had to evolve successfully. The 9 Nether Sparrow cried out again, its massive wings flapping as it issued another challenge to the black divine thunder tribulation. This time, it would not fail. Boom! The black divine thundercloud seemed to sense the 9 Nether Sparrow's challenge. The clouds began to shift, and a terrifying aura of heaven and earth enveloped everything. The thunder gathered more violently within the cloud. Boom! The thunderclouds suddenly tore apart, and all sounds in the world seemed to freeze. A massive black divine thunderbolt, carrying annihilating force, shot down from the sky, crashing towards the 9 Nether Sparrow. Chirp! The 9 Nether Sparrow screeched as its massive wings flapped. A storm of black flames erupted, colliding with the black divine thunder in a fierce clash. Boom! A deafening explosion rang out as the thunder and black flames collided. The surrounding towering mountains were instantly swept away, reduced to rubble. Chen landed on the ground, his heart racing as he watched the earth-shattering collision. Back in the northern spirit realm, he had witnessed the 9 Nether Sparrow clash with the black divine thunder tribulation before, but now, both the 9 Nether Sparrow and the thunder tribulation were clearly much stronger than before. This black divine thunder tribulation seems to change in strength based on the power of the tribulation-bearing creature, Chen thought, deep in contemplation. Truly, this was a critical step in a spirit beast's evolution. Under this black divine thunder tribulation, countless powerful spirit beasts would be annihilated. In their first confrontation, the 9 Nether Sparrow didn't fall behind. Just as Chen's thoughts flickered through his mind, high in the sky, the black divine thunder tribulation had finally completed its gathering. The terrifying celestial power spread out, revealing its fierce and menacing presence. Boom! Boom! In the darkness of the world, the thunder tribulation writhed, and massive bolts of black divine thunder descended, covering the sky. Every strike was aimed directly at the 9 Nether Sparrow, with unmatched precision. In the reflection of the countless divine thunders in its eyes, the 9 Nether Sparrow's gaze was filled with unwavering flames. It suddenly flapped its wings, channeling all the power within its body. Whoosh! Whoosh! Like a sea of fire, the black flames surged outward, transforming into powerful tornado storms, tearing through the sky, colliding with the divine thunders, attempting to block them all. The two forces clashed violently in the sky, and a ripple of immense power spread across tens of thousands of feet. The very space twisted from the impact, and even the slightest release of energy could instantly flatten this mountain range. Chen stood on the ground, looking up at the chaotic battle in the sky. His palms clenched tightly, his body tensed. He could feel that as the frequency of the black divine thunder tribulation intensified, the 9 Nether Sparrow's defense was beginning to show signs of weakening. Suddenly, Chen's pupils contracted. A massive bolt of black divine thunder descended from the heavens, breaking through the black flame storm and striking heavily against the 9 Nether Sparrow's colossal body. Boom! With a deep, muffled sound, the 9 Nether Sparrow's massive body was violently knocked back 1,000 feet. The area struck by the thunder was engulfed in thick, black smoke, and even as the black flames swirled, they couldn't heal the damage quickly. The 9 Nether Sparrow let out a painful cry, its eyes seemingly filled with a blood-red glow. Boom! Boom! Before the 9 Nether Sparrow could even react, the black divine thunder tribulation entered a frenzied state. The thunderclouds contracted, and bolts of black divine thunder rained down uncontrollably, causing the very heavens and earth to tremble under the violent storm. The 9 Nether Sparrow's wings curled around its body in defense, and black flames surged around it, forming a layer of black crystal around it. Flames rose from the crystals, making it appear incredibly sturdy. Bang! Bang! The divine thunders pierced through the sky and struck the black crystal layers surrounding the 9 Nether Sparrow. With each strike, countless crystal layers shattered, and the sparrow's body trembled violently, clearly suffering immense pain. The devastation from the divine thunders lasted for several minutes. The black crystal layers around the 9 Nether Sparrow shattered completely, and its once graceful and elongated form was now battered and broken, blood dripping from its feathers. Chen watched as the 9 Nether Sparrow appeared to be in a miserable state, his palms tightening in sympathy. The black divine thunder tribulation was terrifyingly powerful. Each bolt of divine thunder could annihilate even a heaven-reaching stage expert without leaving a trace. At this rate, the 9 Nether Sparrow might not be able to hold on much longer. Under Chen's tense gaze, the battered 9 Nether Sparrow, despite its injuries, still raised its head, releasing a proud and clear cry. Even if it was to be destroyed, it refused to submit to the black divine thunder tribulation. Boom! The thunder tribulation showed no mercy. The destructive divine thunders continued their relentless assault. Whoosh! Just as the divine thunder was about to strike the 9 Nether Sparrow once again, a faint light rainbow suddenly shot out from its body. The light hovered above the sparrow, expanding into an enormous feather. The feather glowed with a dark green color, its surface shimmering with endless radiant light. As it spread its wings, it seemed to cover the entire sky. The divine thunder struck heavily against the dark green feather. The light on the feather scattered somewhat, but it ultimately withstood the attack without shattering. What is that? Chen was startled. The dark green feather clearly did not belong to the 9 Nether Sparrow, yet the power contained within it was immense. Even after taking several divine thunder strikes, it had not dissipated. The 9 Nether Sparrow was taken aback for a moment, but quickly recovered from its injuries. It knew that while the feather was powerful, it could only slightly block the divine thunders. The tribulation still had to be faced by itself. Enraged by this sudden appearance, the black divine thunder tribulation seemed to sense that the feather was foreign to the 9 Nether Sparrow. Boom! At that moment, the black divine thunder tribulation began to stir, and massive bolts of divine thunder rained down relentlessly. In the face of such furious strikes, the feather dimmed and lost its glow, eventually being completely reduced to ashes by the divine thunder. Caw! As the feather turned to ashes, the 9 Nether Sparrow let out a long, mournful cry, with hot blood continuously spilling from its body, yet its eyes were brighter than ever. In its clear cry, Chen could see a faint purple light flashing within the wounds on the 9 Nether Sparrow's body. It seemed to be a faint trace of purple flame. That trace of purple flame, hidden within the black flame, was barely noticeable, but Chen could see that as the purple flame appeared, the wounds on the 9 Nether Sparrow's body were rapidly healing. Even the divine thunder's power at those wounds was unable to hinder the recovery. That's the undying fire? Chen stared at the faint purple flame, his pupils contracting slightly. He knew the 9 Nether Sparrow well by now, and naturally recognized that only the undying fire, born from the body of the ancient undying bird, could ignore the damage of the thunder tribulation and heal the body. However, the undying fire was unique to the undying bird. While the 9 Nether Sparrow had some bloodline of the undying bird, it was too thin to awaken the undying fire. But now, the 9 Nether Sparrow had the undying fire within it, meaning its bloodline of the undying bird was far superior to that of a typical 9 Nether Sparrow. Chen's eyes flickered slightly. It seemed the 9 Nether Sparrow was not ordinary within its clan. As its injuries healed rapidly, the unyielding flames burning in the 9 Nether Sparrow's eyes grew fiercer. It looked up at the black divine thunder tribulation, which had begun to shrink, but the destructive force within it was becoming more terrifying by the second. It knew that the black divine thunder tribulation was gathering its strongest power, preparing to erase it from this world. However, facing the destructive power that could annihilate it, the 9 Nether Sparrow proudly tilted its head and slowly flapped its massive wings. In the overwhelming black flames, faint traces of purple flame began to emerge. Caw! It let out a sharp cry, issuing its final challenge to the black divine thunder tribulation. High in the sky, the black thunderclouds were rapidly shrinking. Not a single sound of thunder was heard, but the oppressive silence made the very air seem to freeze. Anyone could feel that after this brief moment of quiet, a terrifying destructive storm was about to erupt. The 9 Nether Sparrow flapped its giant wings, the dark flames surging like a tidal wave. Within the depths of the flames, tiny purple flames drifted quietly. Though minuscule and hard to notice, they emanated a mysterious power. Below, Chen's expression turned grim. Under the pressure, he felt that his spiritual energy had stopped circulating. He knew that the next strike would be the final blow of the black divine thunder tribulation. If the 9 Nether Sparrow could withstand it, it would successfully survive the tribulation, ascend in spirit, and truly break free from the realm of spirit beasts, becoming a divine beast on par with the Supreme. Its future would be limitless. Of course, if it couldn't withstand it, then it would fail. Despite the 9 Nether Sparrow's bloodline of the undying bird, it couldn't rely on it forever. If even a small mistake occurred, it would vanish entirely. And if the 9 Nether Sparrow vanished, Chen, who had bonded with it through a bloodline connection, would also suffer a devastating blow, possibly even death. Such an outcome would be the most tragic for both Chen and the 9 Nether Sparrow. At this moment, Chen could do nothing. The thunder tribulation was too terrifying. Even the Supreme would likely not dare to challenge its divine might. And with his own meager power at the quasi-spirit transformation stage, no matter what methods he used, he would be unable to shake it in the slightest. 9 Nether Sparrow, hang in there. Chen clenched his palms tightly, muttering under his breath. The oppressive atmosphere enveloped the heavens and earth. The once vast black divine thundercloud, which had covered a radius of 10,000 feet, had now shrunk to just 100 feet in size. But the blackness had deepened, resembling a slowly revolving black hole from a distance. Buzz. The 100-foot-wide black divine thundercloud began to writhe, its center sinking slightly. In the concave center, the black divine thunder gathered together, coiling like a sinister black dragon, slowly slithering and winding. Boom! From the center of the depression, the black divine thunder suddenly erupted, like a black divine light piercing through the heavens and earth. The entire world was engulfed in eerie silence, with only the black divine light roaring down from the heavens, like the wrath of a god. Chirp! In the eyes of the 9 Nether Sparrow, flames burned fiercely. It let out a piercing shriek, compressing the raging fire into a single point. Above it, the flames transformed into a massive black feather, roughly 1,000 feet long. The feather was etched with profound, mysterious patterns, with black flames rising from it. It was an exceptionally enigmatic sight. Facing the terrifying strike of the black divine thunder tribulation, the 9 Nether Sparrow poured all its strength into unleashing its most powerful technique. Whoosh! The black feather shot forward, piercing through space, directly colliding with the black divine light that tore through the heavens and earth. At the moment of impact, the light of the world seemed to be absorbed, and a black aura suddenly swept across the sky, covering a radius of 100 miles. Boom! Boom! Mountain peaks were swept away, instantly turning to dust. From a high vantage point, within a 100-mile radius, the land had been reduced to a flat plain, with entire mountain ranges wiped out. The destructive power was chilling to witness. Chen had no time to marvel. His eyes were fixed on the distant horizon, where the black divine light was slowly pressing down. As it did, the black feather began to crack, with fine fissures appearing on its surface. The power of this black divine thunder tribulation was too strong. Chen's heart raced, and his pupils constricted. In the sky, the black feather, now riddled with cracks, could no longer withstand the destructive force of the black divine light. With a sharp crack, it shattered. As the feather broke apart, the black divine light surged downward without obstruction, crashing toward the massive body of the 9 Nether Sparrow. Chirp! A shrill, heart-wrenching screech filled the air, as the 9 Nether Sparrow's enormous body plummeted, crashing into the distant mountains. Boom! The earth shook as if an earthquake had struck, sending a shockwave across the land. The area around the 9 Nether Sparrow's landing point, stretching for tens of thousands of feet, collapsed instantly, with deep chasms spreading rapidly across the ground. The vast mountain range was completely devastated. Chen shot into the sky, narrowly avoiding the terrifying shockwave, and quickly darted away. In the center of the collapsed land, the dust began to settle, and the scene slowly came into view. In the immense crater, the 9 Nether Sparrow lay battered, its black feathers shattered, no longer the graceful creature it once was. Deep, ugly wounds were exposed across its body, blood pouring out in torrents, staining the land a deep crimson. Chen's gaze was fixed on the motionless 9 Nether Sparrow, lying in a pool of blood. His face paled slightly as he hurried toward it, pressing his palm to its body. Spiritual energy surged from him, rushing into the sparrow. With the infusion of his spiritual energy, the 9 Nether Sparrow, lying in the blood-soaked ground, finally trembled slightly. Its eyes opened a crack, and a weak, faint voice emerged. "Did I survive?" Seeing it still breathing, Chen let out a heavy sigh of relief. But when he looked up, his expression suddenly changed. The black divine thundercloud, which had begun to dissipate, still flickered with remnants of black light. There were still traces of destructive fluctuations remaining. Boom! The dark thundercloud rumbled again. Another black divine thunder shot down. This bolt was clearly much weaker than the previous ones, being the remnant energy of the previous strike. But at this moment, the 9 Nether Sparrow was exhausted, its energy depleted. It could fall at any moment. If this last bolt of divine thunder struck it, there would be no chance of survival. The 9 Nether Sparrow seemed to sense the danger, struggling to rise. But it had no strength left. Its body was drenched in blood, and its eyes reflected a deep, tragic despair. Had all its years of effort been in vain? Had all the battles fought been for nothing? Chen gazed at the despair in the 9 Nether Sparrow's eyes, his hand unconsciously clenching into a fist. Then, he gritted his teeth, and in a flash, appeared above the 9 Nether Sparrow. With a low shout, he changed his stance, and immense spiritual energy gathered behind him, forming into a gigantic white tiger. The tiger, its paws stepping on the stars, roared and charged toward the final black divine thunder, carrying an unstoppable killing intent. However, such a powerful attack, upon contact with the Black Divine Thunder, only caused a brief pause before the thunder roared and tore the white tiger apart. Boom! The Black Divine Thunder was incredibly fast. Almost in the instant it shredded the white tiger, it appeared above Mu Chen, and without mercy, struck his body. As it hit, Mu Chen's body emitted a similar fluctuation to the 9 Nether Sparrow, though the thunder did not avoid him. Bang! Mu Chen was struck as if by lightning, spitting out a mouthful of blood. His body was engulfed by the violent black thunder, and he plummeted to the ground, landing near the 9 Nether Sparrow. The earth beneath him collapsed from the impact. Chirp! Seeing this, the 9 Nether Sparrow let out a painful cry, trembling as it stretched its wings, covered in grotesque wounds, trying to save Mu Chen from the Black Divine Thunder. But its injuries were too severe. The moment it moved, intense pain surged through it, almost overwhelming its remaining consciousness. And as the final bolt of divine thunder fell, the black thunder clouds above the sky finally dissipated. In the moment the clouds cleared, the 9 Nether Sparrow's body suddenly erupted with dazzling light. The light was extraordinarily mystical, surrounding the 9 Nether Sparrow. Under its radiance, the horrific wounds on its body slowly began to heal. Did I successfully transcend the tribulation? The 9 Nether Sparrow muttered, a surge of uncontrollable excitement in its eyes. It could feel enormous changes happening within its body. It was a true transformation, from its body to its bloodline. Such a transformation should have filled it with joy, yet its gaze was urgently fixed on the unmoving figure enveloped in black divine thunder not far away. Mu Chen's strength was too weak, unable to withstand the black divine thunder, even just the residual power from the thunder tribulation. However, just as it anxiously watched, the figure in the distance trembled. The black divine thunder around him gradually began to fade, and he struggled to rise, bending over and spitting out another mouthful of blood. His body swayed, clearly severely injured. Damn, I almost got blasted to death. Mu Chen's face was as pale as paper as he knelt on the ground. Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, he lowered his head to look at his hand, a flash of strange light crossing his eyes. He muttered, "Thank goodness for the Thunder God body, or I really wouldn't have survived." 9 Nether Sparrow. As he murmured, he noticed the dazzling light ahead and hurriedly looked up. There, the massive body of the 9 Nether Sparrow, shrouded in divine light, seemed to be shrinking bit by bit. Its body grew smaller and smaller before finally shrinking completely into the light. Mu Chen squinted, unable to make out what was happening inside. The light persisted for a while, then gradually weakened. As it dimmed, Mu Chen's eyes slowly widened. Within the light was a delicate, jade-like body. She was slender, with long, tight limbs, a perfectly sculpted figure, and an alluringly graceful neck like that of a swan. Her red lips were slightly parted, revealing elongated, mesmerizing purple eyes that exuded an irresistibly wild allure. Mu Chen stared in shock and muttered, "It really is a female." Amid the ruined earth, the beautiful girl shimmered with a radiance as pure as white jade. Her seductive appeal was enough to captivate any man's gaze. However, the girl before him was clearly no delicate, gentle type. Upon hearing Mu Chen's muttering, her brows immediately furrowed. She moved swiftly, sending a gust of fragrant wind his way. Mu Chen's body was thrown into the rocks behind him, and the lithe, firm, and full of life figure pressed up against him. Her long, delicate hand gripped his throat. "Do you believe I'll kill you?" she asked, her voice clear and melodious, like a mountain spring rushing through a gorge, but tinged with a touch of coldness, making the spring seem a little more chilling. Mu Chen, leaning against the rocks, facing her threat, couldn't help but curl his lips in resignation. "Then go ahead and kill me." It seemed that even in her human form, the 9 Nether Sparrow still had no understanding of gentleness. Chuckle. The beautiful girl before him smiled brightly. Her jade hand gently caressed his face as she laughed softly. Mu Chen was at a loss whether to laugh or cry. He couldn't help but shrink his body, trying to avoid further contact with the woman whose body was so close to him. Indeed, Her figure was extraordinarily seductive, full of wildness, like a little female leopard, easily stirring a man's desires. Can you put on your clothes? Even though you're a 9 Nether sparrow, you're still in human form right now. It's better to be cautious, Chen said. He didn't want to take advantage of the situation. Human form is such a hassle, she shook her head. Glowing lights surged around her body as her dark blue clothes materialized, immediately covering her exposed skin and concealing the seductive glow. However, under the fabric, her slender figure became even more alluring. Her waist was slim, her chest full, making anyone's heart race. Seeing this, Chen breathed a sigh of relief. This was truly overwhelming. You should have successfully passed the tribulation, right? Chen asked, glancing at the 9 Nether sparrow. After hesitating for a moment, he added, I still don't know your name. Should I keep calling you 9 Nether sparrow? Call me 9 Nether, she replied, appearing extremely pleased after surviving the Black Divine Thunder tribulation. With a smile, she patted Chen's shoulder and said, from now on, let me look after you. Although, not right now. 9 Nether suddenly furrowed her brows. I haven't completed the final step? What do you mean? Chen asked, confused. Right now, I've passed the tribulation, but my physical body hasn't fully evolved into a divine beast's form yet. So, over the next period, I may fall into a deep sleep to complete my physical evolution. When I wake up again, I'll have fully transformed into the 9 Nether Phoenix. A look of longing and expectation filled her wild, beautiful eyes. The 9 Nether Phoenix. Chen nodded slightly. This must be the form she would take after evolving. Although it only differed by a single word from the 9 Nether sparrow, it was a world apart in terms of spirit beasts and divine beasts. While I'm sleeping, make sure you don't get yourself killed. I've established a bloodline bond with you, and I don't want to survive the tribulation only to have my bloodline bond backfire on me, 9 Nether warned, casting a glance at Chen. Chen felt a bit regretful. He had hoped she would serve as an extra powerful bodyguard, but now she was about to fall into a deep sleep. It seemed like he had lost a trump card instead. During this time, if you run into something you can't handle, just avoid it. When I wake up, I'll deal with anyone who's bullied you. Got it? 9 Nether said with a playful laugh. I'm not that fragile, Chen replied helplessly. Fine, I'll begin now. You should leave quickly. My tribulation caused quite a stir. The old fools at the Northern Azure Spiritual Academy might notice and come to investigate. 9 Nether gave a final reminder and stopped speaking. Black flames started to rise from her body, and a mysterious purple flame flickered in her long, narrow eyes. The black flames surged and enveloped 9 Nether, condensing into a solid form until it became a massive black egg about the size of a person. On the surface of the egg were wing patterns, ancient and obscure. Faint purple light shimmered across the wings. Seeing 9 Nether transform into the giant egg and fall into a deep sleep for her final evolution, Chen waved his sleeve and stored it inside his mustard seed bracelet. It seemed that, for the time being, he would have to rely on himself. However, he was looking forward to when 9 Nether would wake up again. With her strength, she would probably be able to challenge even a supreme being. When that time came, having her as a bodyguard would be extremely powerful. It's time to leave. Chen took one last look at the ravaged land before him. Without further hesitation, he moved swiftly, soaring into the sky, disappearing into the horizon within a few flashes. About half an hour after Chen left, a bald old man with a cane mysteriously appeared atop a collapsed mountain peak. His murky gaze followed the direction Chen had gone, a trace of surprise flashing across his withered face. This little 9 Nether actually possesses such a thick phoenix bloodline. It seems the 9 Nether Sparrow clan has produced a rare genius. Perhaps this little 9 Nether really will evolve into an ancient, undying phoenix. But she's established a bloodline bond with that human kid. That could become her fatal weakness. If the old monsters from the 9 Nether Sparrow clan find out, they'll probably explode with anger. The bald elder chuckled softly, and as his laughter echoed, his body gradually became more and more ethereal, eventually disappearing entirely. The land grew silent once again. But this silence lasted for only half an hour before the space began to slightly ripple once more. Soon, several figures appeared out of nowhere. These figures were all elderly with heads full of white hair and solemn expressions. Though no powerful spiritual energy ripple surrounded them, they exuded an overwhelming sense of pressure. Among them was Elder Zhu Tian, and at this moment, his expression was grave as he looked down at the land below, which had been severely destroyed. There were still traces of the terrifying Black Divine Thunder lingering. "It's the Black Divine Thunder," one of the elders from the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy said, his gaze heavy. A spirit beast was attempting to survive the Black Divine Thunder Tribulation here. Upon hearing the words, Black Divine Thunder Tribulation, even Elder Zhu Tian's expression changed slightly. They all knew the severity of this tribulation. Once a spirit beast survives it, it can evolve into a true divine beast, rivaling the supreme beings. Such beings are considered top-tier even on the North Song continent, and to think one appeared right outside their Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy, unnoticed by them for all these years. Furthermore, they had no idea that such a powerful spirit beast was hiding in the mountains surrounding the academy. However, looking at the bloodstains on the ground, it's highly likely that the spirit beast failed to survive the tribulation and was instead obliterated by the Black Divine Thunder, Elder Zhu Tian observed, though he had not witnessed the event firsthand. Still, they could feel the terrifying clash that had erupted here earlier. What a shame. The other elders sighed in regret. Spirit beast cultivation takes far longer than humans. For a spirit beast to reach the Black Divine Thunder Tribulation, it would take countless years of training, yet now, under that ruthless thunder, it had been reduced to nothing, vanishing into dust. Although the unknown spirit beast may have been killed by the tribulation, we still need to report this matter to the dean. Elder Zhu Tian furrowed his brow. Recently, the Dragon Demon Palace has been making more and more movements on the North Song continent. These guys now consider us their mortal enemies. If given the chance, they could pose a significant threat to our Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy, so we must proceed with caution. The other elders nodded solemnly. The name Dragon Demon Palace brought immense pressure to them. This faction once nearly unified the entire North Song continent and even extended its influence to surrounding continents. If it weren't for the internal turmoil within the Dragon Demon Palace and the support of Lord Biming from the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy, the outcome might have been uncertain. Let's go. Seeing the situation, Elder Zhu Tian said no more. With a wave of his sleeve, several figures flashed and vanished in the blink of an eye. The world finally became completely calm once more, with only the ravaged land remaining as a testament to the terrifying clash that had occurred here. Chen returned smoothly to the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy and went straight to the freshman district. His face was slightly pale. Though the Black Divine Thunder didn't claim his life, thanks to his training in the Thunder God Body, it still caused him significant harm. He needed to recover quickly, as the hunting war was only 3 days away, and he had to be at his peak. Chen landed on a small pavilion and then noticed a slight movement in his expression. There, a beautiful young woman in a black long dress was smiling as she watched him. Upon seeing her, a soft smile appeared on Chen's handsome face. He couldn't help but step forward, sweeping his arm around her and pulling the young woman into his embrace. The warmth and softness of her made him exhale in comfort. Luo Li also smiled faintly and leaned her cheek against his chest. Her delicate nose gently sniffed, and her glistening eyes narrowed slightly. There seemed to be a faint scent on Chen's body, and with her keen instincts, she knew it was the scent of another woman. Chen, who had been enjoying the warmth of her embrace, also noticed Luo Li's expression. His heart skipped a beat, sensing that things were about to take a turn for the worse. Who is she? A somewhat dangerous smile appeared on Luo Li's exquisite, porcelain-like face. Her voice was soft, but it made Chen's head spin. Chen looked helplessly at Luo Li, whose rosy lips curved slightly with a hint of danger. Yet, he couldn't help but want to laugh. It was rare to hear even a trace of jealousy in her voice. Still not explaining? Luo Li knew Chen too well. The moment she saw the amusement in his eyes, she immediately understood what he was thinking. Her delicate face turned slightly red as she shot him a feigned, angry glare. Chen wrapped his arms around her slender waist and pulled her tightly against him. After a brief moment of hesitation, he decided not to hide the existence of the 9 Nether Sparrow from her. Thus, he gave her a concise account of what had happened. 9 Nether Sparrow? Luo Li was slightly taken aback upon hearing this, especially when she learned that the 9 Nether Sparrow had endured the Black Divine Thunder Tribulation. Her expression grew even more astonished. As someone from the Luo God clan, she had considerable knowledge of powerful spirit beast bloodlines, and the 9 Nether Sparrow race was known for its formidable strength. She hadn't expected that such a creature had been lurking within Chen all along. You actually dared to take on the Black Divine Thunder? In the next instant, her eyes widened in shock, filled with anxiety. The Black Divine Thunder Tribulation was something even supreme powerhouses dared not provoke. Given Chen's current strength, the slightest mistake could have turned him to ashes. I formed a bloodline pact with the 9 Nether Sparrow. If she died, I would suffer severe backlash as well. Chen gave a helpless smile. So, no matter how you look at it, there was no way I could just stand by and watch her be destroyed by the tribulation. A bloodline pact? Luo Li's delicate lips parted in shock before she suddenly bit down on Chen's chest. You're infuriating. She clearly understood what a bloodline pact meant. It tied Chen's life directly to the 9 Nether Sparrow. If either of them faced mortal danger, the other would suffer the repercussions. Chen scratched his head, unsure how to explain himself. At the time, he had no other choice. But he also knew that the girl in his arms was simply jealous, so he didn't argue, only holding her tighter. Well, at least there's a silver lining. Now that she has survived the Black Divine Thunder Tribulation, once she awakens, she'll be able to rival supreme beings. That means you'll be much safer in the future, and I can have some peace of mind, Luo Li murmured, her brief moment of jealousy fading as she quickly regained her composure. Chen gazed at her deep, glimmering eyes and thought of how she would soon leave him to return to the Luo God clan, bearing an immense responsibility. She would have to endure everything alone, stepping onto the throne as the next ruler of her people. A faint pain gripped his heart. He lowered his forehead to press gently against hers. But I won't be at ease without you. You, not at ease about me? Have you forgotten that you were once my defeated opponent? Luo Li chuckled softly, but Chen wasn't in the mood to joke. His dark eyes remained serious as he stared at her. Feeling slightly flustered, Luo Li averted her gaze and murmured, "What is it?" Luo Li. Chen's voice was steady and solemn. Slowly, he said, "No matter what happens, wait for me. Things might be difficult for you in the Luo God clan, but trust me, for you, I will work even harder to become stronger. One day, I will fulfill my promise to you." Luo Li gazed into his earnest eyes, her vision turning slightly misty. She understood just how much effort and hardship Chen would have to endure to keep his word. The path to becoming an unparalleled powerhouse was paved with countless trials, thorns that could wound, scar, and even strip him of his once carefree smile. Those trials would undoubtedly refine his youthful face into one of maturity, but that thought only made her heart ache. I promise you," Luo Li whispered, her voice as soft as melting snow, her crystal-clear eyes brimming with tenderness. Chen looked at the girl in his arms, captivated by her beauty. His embrace tightened, as if he wanted to merge her into himself. He lowered his head slightly. "Don't." As if sensing something, Luo Li let out a barely audible protest, but her words were soon ignored. The next moment, Chen claimed her soft, rosy lips in an unrestrained, domineering kiss. She struggled briefly, then gradually relaxed, her delicate figure melting into his embrace like water. For the next 3 days, Northern Heaven's Spiritual Academy grew increasingly lively at an astonishing pace. The source of this intense atmosphere, of course, is the Hunting War. It is the grandest event held every year at Northern Song's Spiritual Academy, where countless dark horses, who have devoted themselves to hard training, rise to the sky, unleashing the results of their efforts for the entire year. Each time the Hunting War concludes, the heavenly ranking undergoes the most dramatic changes of the year. As a result, fierce battles inevitably erupt in the hunting war, a contest between dark horses and the current top students. But who will replace the other depends on whose hidden trump cards are stronger. Thus, during these 3 days, the atmosphere at Northern Song Spiritual Academy is electrified, especially outside the spirit gathering arrays and thunder domain, where one can occasionally spot figures with dazed expressions but filled with a burning battle intent. These individuals, without exception, are endowed with powerful fluctuations of spiritual energy. Having concluded their long, grueling training, they return to the academy, ready to unleash incredible strength in the upcoming hunting war to reclaim the glory they once lost or to seize what they are destined to gain. The entire academy buzzes with excitement as many seek to gather information, trying to uncover the trump cards and abilities of potential dark horse candidates. Amidst this fervor, countless students wait eagerly, anticipating the grand hunting war about to commence. When the 3rd day arrives, the entire Northern Song Spiritual Academy feels as if it is submerged in a boiling atmosphere. The sound of wind cutting through the air is almost continuous, and the overwhelming number of figures soaring in the sky presents a truly spectacular sight. At the freshman district, Chen and Luo Li have already arrived at the plaza by the lake, where Yixingling, Zhouling, and many other members of the Luo God Society excitedly surround them. Among the new students, it is likely only Chen, Luo Li, and a few others are qualified to participate in the hunting war. Mugu, good luck. If you perform well in the hunting war, you'll truly become a legend at Northern Song Spiritual Academy, one member of the Luo God Society excitedly says. Though Chen has gained some fame at the academy, calling him a legend is still premature. Only the top 10 figures on the heavenly ranking, like Shan Songxing, Li Xiantong, Su Xian, He Yao, and others, are worthy of such a title. Chen smiles. He isn't particularly interested in the title of legend, but he is very keen on the spirit light baptism from the hunting war. Let's go, it's time, Luo Li says with a smile. Okay. Chen smiles and immediately flashes forward, with Luo Li following closely behind. Yixingling, Zhouling, and the others quickly catch up. Though they aren't participating in the hunting war, this is the biggest event at Northern Song Spiritual Academy every year, and they can't miss the excitement. As Chen and his group depart, in the newly rebuilt headquarters of the Demon Gate, He steps out with a large group of Demon Gate members. His eyes darken as he gazes toward the freshman district, and a cold smile appears on his face. Chen, I hope you won't be unlucky enough to run into me in the hunting grounds. Otherwise, I'll make you realize how far you are from the real legends of Northern Song Spiritual Academy. On a small island in the middle of the lake, Su Xian and Su Linger also step out. They look up at the sky, where the sound of wind cutting through the air never ceases, and they can't help but smile. It's once again the most exciting time of the year at Northern Song Spiritual Academy. Let's go, Su Xian says with a gentle smile. She takes a graceful step forward, and as she moves, the fluctuations of her spiritual energy ripple like water. However, after just a few steps, these energy waves are fully retracted. Sister, you have to give it your all this time. Try to defeat Li Xiantong and take his second spot on the heavenly ranking. Su Linger says with a mischievous smile. It's not that easy. Just holding on to third place would be good enough, Su Xian replies helplessly, pulling Su Linger along. The two sisters then soar toward the heart of Northern Song Spiritual Academy. On top of a lone peak, a tall figure slowly steps out. There are several people waiting quietly at the top, and when they see this figure, their eyes instantly light up. Boss! Li Xiantong smiles faintly at them, then waves his hand, saying, It's almost time. Yes. The others respond in unison, promptly following him. Li Xiantong stands at the edge of the mountain, his gaze fixed on the direction of Northern Song Spiritual Academy. Shen Songxing, you should be coming back. This year, I'm going to surpass you. Please don't let me down. Go! Li Xiantong gave a light command, and his figure shot out like a streak of rainbow light. Behind him, many figures immediately followed. At this moment, the entire Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy was ablaze with excitement. Countless figures streaked across the sky, converging toward the central area of the academy. After long years of hard training and enduring restraint, the day to truly explode with power had finally arrived. The students with formidable strength were all filled with battle intent.